Well, 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 fancy seeing you here at the end of another year. It would seem by the fact that you're here that you made it. I made it too. Just about. I thought we'd round out this year by looking back at some of the things that I have consumed, that I have enjoyed, that I have tasted, swallowed and thought, that's good. And also some of the things that I've done. There's so many things that I haven't completed. I am, as some people know, a professional half-arser. So there's lots of things in this video that you'll know, like, oh, she's done so much. I've missed so many deadlines. I have so many uncompleted projects scattered around the house, so many unanswered emails. But today we're focusing on the positives, the things that I have done this year and the stats behind them, the maths that I haven't collated. Thankfully, the robots have done that for me. And we're just going to look back at what I've enjoyed. We're going to go from like things that I've written, things that I've made, like clothes-wise, things that I've watched, things that I've read. And it's just going to be a little cozy overview. So grab a cup of tea and we'll get started. Now, by far, the biggest project that I have completed in 2024 is this book. This book, Half-Arse Human, How to Live Better Without Burning Out, did not exist on the 1st of January 2024 when I set out all of my other New Year's resolutions and goals. It wasn't even really a glimmer in my eye. And in that time, it has been commissioned, drafted, planned, executed, edited, re-edited, published, printed, shipped out to shops. I can't believe it's all happened within 12 months. It's actually a little bit insane. And for that reason, all of my other goals have suffered. So if you have had an unexpected, doesn't have to be positive, thing happen in 2024, I hope that you lowered your expectations for all of your other goals. And if you didn't, I think that you can post lower them now in retrospect and be like, whoa, hold on a second. I think I need to adjust everything. So this is the book that I created. It's like, basically I'm saying it's like the only self-help book that will tell you to give up, and it's very silly, and I have some other videos about it down below if you'd like to have a look. But I do actually have some stats on the words that I completed for this book, because just like with Spotify and Storygraph, which is my better version of Goodreads that I use, and like Spotify Wrapped, all of those things, there is actually one for writing that my friend Hannah Witten introduced me to when she knew that I was writing this book, and it's actually changed my life. It's called Pacemaker, not Spawn, just a huge fan. And I logged all my words every day and it like adjusted them for me, and it was just so good. Anyway, so I thought for the first review of things for this year, I would pull the stats from my writing #journey. So as you can see on screen, my goal was to write 60,000 words minimum. I ended up writing 70,742, or so it might seem, which was an average of 943 words a day. What I do think is interesting is that over that long period where I was writing the book, I only had a 9-day streak in writing. I did not write every day. And I think one of the big like writing advices for people is like, you know, you have to do it every day. That's all the great authors say, is I have to do it every day. I freaking didn't, and I still got it done in a year, and it was fine. You do need time off. So I think sometimes I fixated on that figure, and I was like, God, I keep breaking my streak because I'm not writing every day. Most of the time I'd write one day, off one day, write another day, off one day, realistically, and I still got it done. So I think it's also worth looking at the metrics that you're measuring and being like, well, that one didn't really matter, did it? Because the big number still happened. I still hit my word goal. If you're interested, here are my averages for like the week: 4,000 words a week. You can see that I wrote way more at the weekend than I did in the weekdays because I was still doing my day job while I was doing that as well. So it was all a little bit like hazardous, and I'm glad that it only lasted for a short amount of time because I couldn't have kept up this schedule, nor would I want to. Anyway, that's my writing. However, this doesn't show all the words that I deleted. Would you like to see all the words that I deleted? I have a document in my Google Drive which is just called The Graveyard, and it's all the parts that I wrote and then on reflection took out, or like I take out whole paragraphs and then just summarize them in a sentence instead. So on top of that 70,742, I also wrote 17,699 that didn't make it into the book. So that's actually an awful lot of numbers. I should just calculate how many numbers that is, shouldn't I? So in total, I wrote 88,441 words to get this tiny little, hopefully very readable book. And I dread to think of all the other like one sentences I deleted that I didn't end up putting in that graveyard folder, or like just words that I'm sure there was more than that. I'm sure it probably equaled 100,000, but thank goodness they didn't all make it into the book. Only the good ones are in here, I promise. But yeah, that's how my writing year looked. And I also wrote some poems, which I haven't logged. Maybe I should log how many poems I write a year, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, next are my reading goals. I think I might just prop this here. Why not? Back yourself, promote yourself. It's here. The next one is reading goals. And for those of you who've been around for a while, you'll know I am ambitious when it comes to reading goals. I love reading. I tend to do a lot of it naturally anyway. And I like pushing myself to read more because one, it stops me from being on a screen and scrolling. And two, I think it gives me a really broad idea of what is going on in the world and other people's brains. And it also gives me ideas of like how to do my job, how to make videos for you that are entertaining. So I try and read a lot. However, this year I was like, I think because, I think my goal for like this year was 50 books or maybe 60. And when I realized that I would be spending a lot of time actually birthing a book, like making one with the cells of my brain, I was like, I think that I can probably give myself a break. So I actually lowered my reading goal to 30 books, which felt much more doable. So any of you who follow me on the story graph, you will have seen the surreptitious change in early January, which I actually ended up exceeding by 10 books. But I'll tell you how I did that. And I don't think this is wrong. I actually think this is accurate. And again, back yourself. I logged every time I read my own book. Not when I was like reading every chapter and then editing a chapter, or like when I reread a paragraph. Like, let's not be silly. But once the whole book was like completely done and I was in the final stage of editing and like proofreading and stuff, I did log every time I read that book, which was 6 times, which was like, obviously I'd read it more times than that, but you know what I mean? In completion, I logged every one and I don't regret a minute of it, including the audiobook when I went and did the audiobook, because I was reading the whole book again, which resulted, surprise, surprise, in me being my most read author of the year. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kate Moss was my second most read author of the year with 2 books, and you've seen a video that I've done on my channel with her and the books that I read, and I thought they were brilliant. But yeah, I'm my most read author of the year. No regrets. I also read 10,957 pages, which again makes me feel like I could read longer books. Like, I am reading a lot of pages a year, but I'm always like, oh, I don't have time to read longer books. I actually do. I love the page goal function on Storygraph because it really makes me think like, I do actually read more than I think I do. I am capable of it. And anyway, so yeah, that was good. And I'm glad that I did reach my reading goal, be it through surreptitious means. I read mainly medium-paced books and predominantly under 300 pages. Again, not surprising, given what else I was attempting. Shorter books were the order of the day. And also I wrote a book under 300 pages. So I feel like that is truly where I belong. Most of my favourite books are under 300 pages, with the exceptions of Wicked and The Overstory. Apart from that, I can't really think of any books that are actually genuinely long that I like, so there we go. A very pleasing split between non-fiction and fiction. I aim every year to try and make this 50-50, and it almost was, I've still got a couple of books to finish this year, so maybe like on the actual stats it will be pretty much 50-50, but we'll see. I can reverse engineer it as well. I'm happy to read a little bit more non-fiction to even that out. Formats, I read 50% print and 30% audio, 20% digital. I'm surprised it's not more audio, to be fair, because I feel like I was listening to a lot of audiobooks this year, but I will get into that more when we do our reading wrap up of the year that will come in January. And this is how my reading looked. Can you tell when I was really focused on the book? I was writing, I assure you, in January and February and in June and July, but not with the same intensity. So that's when things went down. In fact, I think February was when I was doing a lot of my research reading, and then things took a real dip and came back up. So that's nice. Next category is a thing that I've only just started doing, and I'm really excited to talk to you about it. I have recently started using Letterboxd, which is kind of like Goodreads or Storygraph or Spotify, but for films. Films isn't something that I have actually talked about films a lot on this channel, but I never think of myself as like a film person. I guess because I've never studied it and I don't like see all of the, I don't feel like I know all the directors, or I don't follow any of the award ceremonies, but I apparently bloody love films. I've watched 50 this year. That's probably more than most years, because again, when I got to the end of like a really long day, my brain couldn't process a book, but it could process a film. So, and I also did a lot of knitting this year to relax. So that's what that's about. I watched 104 hours, none of which were wasted. I had a great time. I would love this to log like how many times you went to the cinema versus like what you watched at home. I watched an average of 1 a week and 4 a month, which adds up. And you can actually see big spikes in when I was watching stuff during the writing process, and then like less as I start to read towards the end of the year. So that's really interesting. Letterboxd doesn't let you log all of the TV series you watched, so I just wanted to honour the 6, I think, TV series I've watched this year in their almost entirety. I think I watched the first 6 seasons of Brassic with Craig, mainly while we were eating dinners. Mayor of Easttown, which is Kate Winslet's one, and that was really good. The Ripper, which is about the Yorkshire Ripper. Wouldn't recommend if you're a woman who likes to walk around at night, but like good to know. Pieces of Her, which actually wasn't that good, but I was hoping for it to be good. Baby Reindeer, which obviously was incredible. You don't need to tell me that. And Love is Blind UK, which I think was the best Love is Blind. Put more British people in dating shows. They're actually way more entertaining and they take it way more seriously and they're way less annoying, but maybe that's just me being biased. Yeah, it is. Okay, just checked. Yeah, I'm biased. I would say out of all of the films I watched this year, I do have a top 4, and I think it is Joker. Yes, the new Joker film, which I've never seen any of the other Jokers, but I heard this one was a musical. So I went and I was really pleasantly surprised. Lady Gaga's in it. And I thought it was a fucking wonderful musical, and everybody who is a fan of the Joker films hates them, and I can see why, because I'm not interested in the premise of the Joker films apart from this one. I thought it was really delicately, intelligently done, and I guess that's why everybody hated it, because they don't like delicacy and nuance in songs. And that's toxic masculinity at play, if you ask me. Anyway, Supernova, Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci in love and aging together. That's all I'm going to say. Why didn't anybody tell me this film existed? It's so good. All of Us Strangers, don't need to tell you why that was amazing, but it bloody was. And then obviously Wicked, which if I haven't gone on the record on this channel, I think I have on Instagram, I just want to say that I was not disappointed anyway. I was deeply relieved that they honoured the musical, and as you know, I'm a huge Wicked fan and buff, and I've made videos about it. I've only seen it once so far, and I'm happily sitting in the state of relieved. But if you've watched my videos on Wicked and you want more, I did just guest on the Material Girls podcast talking about Wicked as well, so leave the links to that below if you want to listen to that, because I thought I'd got into the nitty-gritty of Wicked, and then I talked to these women and I was like, I have never been so deep in the nitty and the gritty. It was really great. So if you want to hear more about the Wicked film and me talking about that, then it's in that podcast. Music. Now, I've had my rants on Instagram, and I'll post them below if you want to have a see, about why you should be on YouTube Music and not Spotify. I feel very strongly about this. I think it would be better for you. I'm not saying it's even ethically better. I'm just saying for you, the listener, you will have a better time. I have a better time. Anyway, I'm on YouTube Music. We get our raps early as well, and they're way better than the Spotify ones. This year, I listened to 11,656 minutes of music. You tell me if that's high or low. I don't know what the normal is. I know that Craig's one is like 3 times as high. So in this household, I'm barely even a music fan, but I think that's quite a lot of minutes. My top artists and top tracks are like incredibly predictable. I said on Instagram, but like I'm happy to be just like the other girls. It's truly been the year of women in pop, and I've immersed myself in it unapologetically, apart from Bleachers, who are amazing, and I saw them live, and I actually think this is really controversial. I've seen Chappell Roan and Taylor Swift this year live, and I think even though those were good gigs, I had a better time at Bleachers. They're that good live. Anyway, top tracks: Down Bad, Tortured Poets Department, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, But Daddy I Love Him, Espresso. No regrets. Mainly, apparently, my music was all about being happy, relatable content, unsurprised, and my most adventurous month was August. If you're interested in my music tastes and like discovering new artists, which I try and do a lot of, even though this graph doesn't show it, I swear I listen to a lot of like new and small artists. On my Patreon, I do a monthly mixtape for the $2 tier people where I share everything I've been listening to that month and what I think they shouldn't miss. And that's like big, happy, like classic tracks, but also loads of small artists as well. So if you are curious about that, I'll leave the links below and how to join. But yeah, if you are like a music person and you want to just share in the glee of music, I do that. As well as a watch list if on YouTube. If you're like overwhelmed by what to watch on YouTube, I do a monthly watch list on that tier as well. My musical moods were split, very split. I guess mostly upbeat, but also love, reflective, uplifting, and a little bit of sad, just 19% sad. That's a good amount. I think I'm happy with that. Now we need to talk about the wardrobe because, like I said, wasn't expecting to make this little baby this year, and I was aiming, because I'm doing this challenge called the Year of Make Do, to make loads of clothes for myself and like really lean into that, what are we calling it at this stage, a hyperfixation, a passion, a hobby, an obsession, a cult, who can say, but I'm really into making my own clothes. And I thought I'd make more this year, but like obviously I got the opportunity to fulfill a completely different dream, and that's fine. But I can tell you that so far this year I made 13 garments. That's not including my hat tally. I made loads of hats to give away for the pre-orders. They're not even half the hats I made. I made a lot of hats, but I couldn't possibly tell you how many. But of the 13 items, 5 were knitted and 8 were sewn. 3 were gifts, and I'm also like halfway through quite a lot of other gifts because we're nearly at Christmas, so my end of year true stats that I'll tell you in January will probably be a little bit higher on the gifting, and most of which I am really happy with. I'm going to throw up a few images of some of them just to give you a little taste of what I've made this year, but I was really happy with what I did end up making, even though I guess my wardrobe only gained 9 items, and I definitely have sold more items this year than I have made, which I'm quite happy with, or like donated items as well. So it's been an interesting year that isn't what I expected, but as you probably already know, I am doing my Year of Make Do again because I want to do over. I want to do it properly next year and make all the clothing anti-fast fashion content that I fantasized about having time to make this year. So if you're interested in joining that, I'll leave the links below if you also want to join in on my Year of Make Do, which is essentially where I give up buying any new clothes to me, even secondhand, and if I want anything I have to like challenge myself to make it myself or mend what I have. So that's what was going on with my clothes thing, but like I said in the other video, I feel like because this is an embroidered cover, this feels like part of my Year of Make Do. Like I kind of made this too. Question mark? Does it count? I think it counts. Anyway, finally, I actually wanted to talk about, in a very meta way, this channel's stats. How has this channel been doing? Because I never talked to you about that, I realised, and actually I'm totally fine with sharing what's been going on. So if you're interested, this year my biggest bit of content that brought in so many views was how Charlie ruined Brat's summer, which is all about fast fashion and Charlie working with H&M. Second was my Let Roald Dahl Die video, which is all about how people are rewriting Roald Dahl books. Now he's dead and he would probably, what he actually said, he would be turning in his grave about it. How Your Boyfriend Became Your Brand, which was all about like relationships and how they're seen from the outside and whether us like over fixating on that is good or bad. And then Lies You're Told About Taylor Swift. It's controversial. But views in general were actually 21% down. Obviously I was focusing on this as well this year, and maybe that's the reflection in it, but it's been a really interesting year for the channel. Same with watch time. We're 20% down on watch time as well, but interestingly, like the one that performs the best for that is the Taylor Swift video, I guess because people are sitting through it. It is a longer video, and coming up on that is the Unhinged deep dive into Wicked, which is also a very long video, but thankfully people stayed around for my absolutely ridiculous PowerPoint presentation. We were 42% down on subscribers. That's not like subscribers in general, don't panic. I'm saying that to myself, don't panic. Do we have a job next year? Probably. It's 42% down on like what I usually gain in subscribers. And you can see where that spike is. That's around the time where I made the Charlie video and also the Your Boyfriend Is Your Brand video. That's where people converted. Apart from that, it was just all of you who are already here watching, which I love, and I love that you stayed around. But most interestingly, and this is not, I have a point to telling you this. This isn't just like me with my absolutely minuscule tiny violin, but I think it's really interesting to note that while views views and watch time were only down 20% for the channel. Revenue, as in like what we earn from the AdSense that's on the videos and like the adverts that you watch before and after a video, or if you pay for YouTube Premium, the money that we gain from that was down 35%. And that is like, I've talked a lot on this channel about the creator economy and how unstable it is, but that's like really interesting to me because there is not always a correlation between views and earnings, and there's no promise that these huge companies make to us. They don't owe us anything. We were on a 0 hours contract essentially. So the reason that ad revenue is down is probably because they have deemed the themes of my channel less valuable to advertisers, which means that less people advertise on the videos, or they advertise like things that are cheaper. So like every view is like worth less, and that can happen when you start questioning capitalism and encouraging people to buy less. And the other reason I can guess is probably ad blocker. I know a lot of people use ad blocker. I used to use ad blocker when I was a student before I understood like the implications it can have on my favorite creators and who they're watching. But that is like a big part of it, that more people are using that because they're watching for free, but they're not willing to watch the adverts, which I get on some level, but also that is what can affect creators. So I say that not because we're unstable, everything is going well here, but I wanted to share that in case you're interested. And I know that a lot of you are in the behind the scenes, like behind the curtain, what goes on in the creator world. And I think that's like a really good excuse for me to just genuinely end the year on saying a huge thank you to the Gumption Club. They're the people that tip me for these videos that I put out on the internet for free via Patreon, and they're the reason that we can have a really consistent income. Me and Craig both work on the channel together to make this happen. It takes 2 people to keep this thing running, and literally the only reason we're able to do that with a stable, livable wage monthly income that we can project into the future and like do financial planning for like the business and for our lives is because of them. And I just want to say a big thank you to them. We have like a really great community going on there as well, and I've met a lot of Gumptioners this year who have all been like, literally everybody I've met from the Gumption Club, I'm just like, you're cooler than me. Why are you following me? And I kind of wish we all lived in the same postcode, because I think it would be an absolute riot and maybe the solution to all of our problems. But everybody's really lovely in there, and I just want to say a big thank you to them. So if you have also enjoyed this channel this year, do give anybody who's in the Gumption Club a big thank you below, because in this turbulent time of economic question marks, stats like this can just be interesting to me, and they don't have to be a big moment of me sitting down and being like, should I just quit YouTube and do something else? Like, do I need to go and work at a bar again? Like, what's, you know what I mean? Like these stats, I have the privilege of them just being really interesting things for me to note and question, like, do I still want to keep making anti-capitalist content that doesn't look monetizable to huge advertisers? Yes, yes I do. And yes, thankfully I can because of them. It also means that I haven't had any YouTube sponsorships this year. No, none, not one. So you haven't seen any sponsored segments on this channel all year. And again, that's because of them. I'm really fussy about who I work with. And if I do work with them, I try and work with them on Instagram. And again, they're very few and far between on Instagram too. And I love that about my job. It means I get to spend more time and more energy on the actual content, and like hopefully making them thoughtful, like useful bits of content that can be moments in your day for you to reflect on stuff and like talk to me, and we can have a little discussion about things genuinely without a brand getting in the way of that. And so when I look back on this year, I'm able to be like, this was a huge success because other people believed in it and bought into the idea of talking about like giving up buying clothes altogether and questioning whether we should call it socialism and communism or we should just call it sharing, you know? So yeah, I'll stop blubbering about that because I'll get emotional. And we hate getting emotional here. I am British, will have you know. I feel like this year has gone well, and I would be remiss without acknowledging the fact that it has gone well because of them. How the bloody hell has your year been? I want to know in the comments below. Please tell me. Best things you've read, best things you've listened to, best things you've watched. I just want like one good recommendation so that the comments become like a huge soup of really good stuff we can consume over this Christmas and New Year period. If you haven't yet grabbed yourself a copy of Half-Arse Human and you cannot be bothered to read any of the books this year, I promise this one is easy to read, hopefully a little bit funny or at least a little bit silly, and full of very silly diagrams that I have drawn. for your enjoyment. So there's links to buy that now. It's also out in audiobook, and thank you to everybody who's got behind this ridiculous idea and made it manifest. I have lots of events coming in 2025 as well, so I'll leave the details of all of those below in case you're in Britain and you would like to come to an event. They're all below there. And I think that's everything from me. Thank you so much for watching this year. I'd also love to hear what you might want to see next year, so you can leave those in the comments below as well. I'm always open for suggestions of things you might want to see. And we'll have a roundup of clothes that I've made and books and stuff in January, so you get to get a more molecular idea of what I've been doing then. Okay, right, I'm gonna leave you alone now. Happy New Year, 2025. It could be good, it could be bad, but we will have each other. That's what I can honestly promise you. Thanks for sticking with me. Frog Snog out.